mind-blowing. I'm Christelle from Diabetes Strong, and from one person living with diabetes to another, this is what you need to know about living with diabetes, and maybe, just maybe, these are things that your diabetic doctor forgot to tell you. I've been living with type 1 diabetes since 1997. On top of that, I have been running and writing for diabetesstrong.com, as well as running the social media for Diabetes Strong since 2015. I've been fortunate enough to be invited to speak at diabetes camps and diabetes conferences. And I've also coached a lot of people who live with diabetes over the years. And this list I'm going to present to you is based on all that experience, as well as research, and just what I've heard from other people in the community. So let's just dive in. When you were diagnosed with diabetes, did you and your doctor have a conversation about the many types of diabetes? And if you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, was this based on several blood tests, or was this just based on maybe a finger prick in the office or an A1C test? The doctor looked at you going, you have type 2? Unfortunately, that last scenario is something I hear way too frequently, and unfortunately that can lead to misdiagnosis. So obviously not everyone is misdiagnosed with type 2, but it's estimated that upwards of 14% of people living with a type 2 diagnosis are actually misdiagnosed. In reality, they live with LADA, also known as type 1.5, which is an autoimmune disease. So if you suspect that you might have been misdiagnosed with type 2 diabetes, it might be a good idea to reach out to your doctor and get some more blood work done. So for example, you can ask for an antibody test or maybe even a C-peptide test. The antibody test can help your doctor assess whether or not you have antibodies, which could indicate an autoimmune disease, whereas a C-peptide test can help your doctor assess your insulin production. So even if you don't have antibodies, you might have a low C-peptide, which could impact which medication your doctor might prescribe, as well as how he or she might recommend that you manage your blood sugars. And now that we've talked about getting the right diagnosis, let's move on to the second thing that your doctor might not have told you about. It's something that I think is really, really important, and that is that there's more than one way to live well with diabetes. There's more than one way that we can successfully manage our blood sugars and achieve the blood sugar goals that we each set for ourselves. Whenever you see those ads, maybe on YouTube, that come on there and they say, this is the way to manage blood sugars, this is the only way, it's probably because they're trying to sell you something. And I guess it would be nice if there was only one path for all of us to successfully manage our blood sugars. It might make things easier, but we're all so different. It would probably also make the majority of us really miserable. I believe we all have to figure out how to successfully manage our own diabetes. And that might require some trial and error. And that goes for everything from setting diabetes management goals to protecting your mental health, figuring out which medications works best for you. And that's just to mention a few aspects. For example, if you manage your blood sugars using insulin, you might have to consider whether or not an insulin pump is the right choice for you, or maybe a hybrid closed loop insulin pump. Or maybe, as it is for me, you do better using MDI, which is multiple daily injections. So I was told for years that using an insulin pump was the only way that I could achieve stable blood sugars. Not true. I use MDI. I am very happy with that solution for me. This is my A1C. I'm pretty happy with that. That's exactly where I want it. And even if you don't inject insulin to manage your blood sugars, if you manage with tablets, other injectables, or diet and exercise, you still have some choices to make. Maybe that's between, finger sticks or using a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, or maybe it's what you choose to eat. And that leads me to the third thing that I'd like to address in this video, and that is that there's no such thing as a diabetic diet. And actually that goes for everyone, whether or not you use insulin or not. And that is that there's not one way of eating that will suit every one of us. So you might have been told that the only way of eating when living with diabetes is to go low carb. You might even have been told to go keto, or you might have been told to only eat fruit and vegetables, go vegan, or cut out all fruits, or whatever people think is the golden ticket to blood sugar management. In my experience, we all need to find the way of eating that suits us individually so that it's something that we can stick to in the long run. So I tried following the keto diet for a while. So that is a diet where you eat very, very few carbohydrates and fairly high fat. So for a lot of people that works brilliantly. They have beautiful blood sugars, they're happy, they feel satisfied. Not so much for me. I was miserable eating that way. I did not have good blood sugar control. I got very insulin resistant, and generally it was not good for me. So I stopped. Does that mean that I think it's bad for everyone? Absolutely not. But it's not for everyone. And the fourth thing that I think we need to talk about, that your doctor might not have told you, but that we need to acknowledge, is that our doctors cannot manage our diabetes for us. It's on us, and it's a 24/7 game. And regardless of which type of diabetes you live with and how you manage it, the reality is that you're the one managing your blood sugars on a daily basis. And most of us only see our diabetes team every maybe 3 to 6 months, or maybe even every 9 months. If you manage your blood sugars using insulin injections, I think it's really important that you learn how to adjust your doses. So you can rely heavily on your medical team. They can teach you how to do that. Some clinics even allow you to check in electronically between appointments. But I think it's really important that you learn how to make those tweaks based on blood sugars, based on what you eat, and that you're able to make daily adjustments. And that also means taking the time to analyze your blood sugar numbers. So a great way to start is taking notes. So write down how your blood sugars are fluctuating. And that way you can start to see trends. So let's say, for example, that all of a sudden you're noticing that after breakfast your blood sugars are running high. Well, that could mean that maybe you need a different insulin dose, or maybe you need to adjust that meal. And really, you don't want to wait 3, 6, or 9 months to see your doctor to make that adjustment. That would be a long time with elevated blood sugars. That being said, and that is the fifth thing I'd like to highlight in this video, is that thriving for perfection is just going to set you up for failure. Nobody has perfect blood sugars 100% of the time. So I think having that unrealistic expectation that you need to be, again, quote unquote, perfect all the time only sets you up for failure. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to manage our blood sugars to the best of our abilities, but I think that's different. I think about it like this. A body with a fully functioning pancreatic system manages blood sugars based on the body's feedback loop. So the body has full information. You and I do not. So when we manage our blood sugars, we don't know how insulin sensitive we are, and there are so many things that can impact blood sugars. Furthermore, if you manage your blood sugars using insulin injections, the insulin that we inject doesn't quite work the same as the insulin produced by the body. So if you inject insulin, that insulin will, first of all, it will take it longer to get into the bloodstream, and it will linger in the body a little longer as well. So both with lower blood sugars, it's just a little different. And talking about unrealistic expectations, let's jump to the sixth thing that your doctor might not have told you about. And that is that everyone's blood sugar fluctuates, even if people do not live with diabetes. So expecting perfectly flat blood sugars 24/7 is probably an unrealistic goal for most people. That doesn't mean that we should let our blood sugars run wild or stay elevated for prolonged amounts of time, but that does mean that most people won't stay below 180 milligrams per deciliter, or that's 10 millimole per liter, all of the time. I find it healthier to focus more on the broader strokes rather than on the individual episodes. So I wear a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, and I choose to focus on my time in range. So my time in range indicates how much time my blood sugars are within a certain range. I have set that range to 70 up to 160 milligrams per deciliter. That's for me. A lot of people are from 70 up to 180. And my personal goal is to be in that range 80 to 85% of the time. That means that I aim to have my blood sugars between 70 and 160 milligrams per deciliter for 80 to 85% of the day, or said differently, for 19 to 21 hours out of the day. But managing diabetes isn't easy. It can be really challenging. And that is something I think we as people living with diabetes need to acknowledge. And it's also the seventh thing that your doctor might not have told you. It's not just taking your medication in the morning and then going on with your life, right? It's thinking about what you eat. It's measuring your blood sugars. It's managing your overall health. Taking notes so that you can make tweaks to your care. I've met so many people who've received a diabetes diagnosis and then just been sent on their way. They might have been told to exercise and eat better. Some people have even been given a prescription for medications and just sent out the door without any guidance on how to use it. This infuriates me. absolutely infuriates me because it's based on the assumption that if you just take a tablet or a few insulin injections, then diabetes is just a walk in the park. And it's not guidance. And can we just agree that diabetes is not easy? It can be done, but it does require guidance. And that's the thing. Not everyone understands diabetes or how complex it is. I mean, your doctor should, but not everyone around you will, and that's the 8th thing that your doctor might not have discussed with you. And yes, the ignorance of the people around you can be really frustrating. I mean, being asked for the 17th time, can you eat that, is really annoying. But this is the way that I see it. What did you know about diabetes before your diagnosis? I can tell you, I knew nothing. I had no one, in my family or any friends who lived with diabetes. I was completely ignorant. So the way that I see it is, I don't think we can expect the people around us to understand diabetes like we do. However, I do think that we can spend the time of explaining it to the best of our ability. So to the question, can you eat that? Be like, yeah, I can, and this is why. But I'm not sure I was prepared for the amount of the type of questions that people will ask me. So my doctor definitely forgot to prepare me for that. And then the 9th and final thing that I think everyone living with diabetes should know, and that is that diabetes doesn't have to run your life. You can flip it on its head and make it work for whatever lifestyle you choose. But you have to accept that your diabetes is going to be with you forever, and you have to take the right precautions. So some of you might have heard me say there's nothing you can't do with diabetes before. And I really do believe that. But you do have to accept your diabetes. You have to plan ahead. And again, take the right precautions. Let's say you want to go traveling. I've done that a bunch. It's definitely doable. So, of course, you have to plan ahead, though. You have to make sure that you have enough of your medications with you, enough supplies. If you're traveling for a longer time or through hot or cold areas, you need to make sure that your medications stay at the right temperature. If you're flying, you have to bring the right documentation. You have to remember to bring all your medication and your supplies in your carry-on. Bring enough snacks and water and so forth. Is it annoying? It can absolutely be annoying, but is it doable? Yes. And that was my list of 9 things that I think everyone living with diabetes should know and that your doctor might have forgot to tell you about. So obviously, I don't know everything, and this is a bit of a subjective list. So down in the comment, let me know what you would add to it. What is the most important thing to you? What should everyone living with diabetes know? When you're there, if you like this video, please give it a like. Also, if you'd like to see more content from me, remember to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. That is that little bell. That way you'll be informed whenever I post new content. Thank you so much for watching.